Good day and welcome, America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Truth Matters, Tom Donahue Reports. And speaking of reports, it has been confirmed Lindsey Graham has died. A lot of rumors and speculations swirling. He just had his trip to the Ukraine. He's been a vocal critic of Putin. He's called for killing Putin, literally. He has been the chief architect of the warmongering culture. He at one time, remember, he partnered with John McCain, but there's many other war hawks that he has been affiliated with, and he was one of the chief advocates and lobbyists and strong-arming Trump into his warlike posture. And prior to his death, he said in a news conference that he spoke with Trump for hours, pushing him to further threaten to decimate and obliterate Iran if they didn't comply with the U.S. dictates. I should say U.S./Israeli dictates or edicts. So Lindsey Graham is dead at 71 from a brief and sudden illness, and Trump said he was a true American patriot. Wow, really? Because he went along with your agenda and because he reversed course and became a fan and sycophant when he was an ardent critic to the point where the name calling was pretty bad. Trump said he spoke with Graham before his death, may have been his last phone call. Lindsey Graham, a close Trump ally and foreign policy hawk, dies. Article from the AP. The AP went on with a secondary article that said, from staunch critic to fierce ally, Graham's long, strange, and consequential friendship with Trump. Now, an article on Mediaite said, extremists on both sides race to the bottom with terms like good riddance because of Lindsey Graham's death. Now, many are reprinting and recirculating Lindsey Graham's comments in 2016 about Trump, and they've gone viral. Now, preliminary findings, medical examiner says he died of aortic dissection. It's a rare condition, but that's the primary cause of his death, so says the medical examiner. Kash Patel offered the FBI's assistance with local authorities to investigate his death. At this juncture, they're saying there does not appear to be foul play. But Kash Patel was called out for stoking Lindsey Graham conspiracy theories. And speaking of conspiracy theories, JD Vance said that he actually has thought about conspiracy theories as it related to Charlie Kirk. We'll have to revisit that subject because of the pretrial hearings and a lot of the controversies and contradictions occurring there. Now, remember, I did my show, which is now available in a podcast, and I don't have the podcast episode number in front of me, but many of you that have been following my program here for the last year or so know that I talked about Lindsey Graham and his trip to Disney World, and I talked about him walking around with a pink fairy bubble wand, a 71-year-old man wandering around by himself with no other people with him. He claimed he had some meeting in Orlando and then decided, I'm just going to wander off to Disney World by myself. And he was following children, which, there are a lot of children in there, so I don't know, but that's what was reported. As he was, I guess, going on rides and things, but he had his little bubble wand, and I saw the pictures of it, and many of you probably did too. So I coined the term Fairy Graham. And that was right around the time that Kristi Noem's cross-dressing husband came out. So I said, wow, fairy tale theater. They could both dress up and play. Sadly, and I say this tongue in cheek, I won't be able to revisit Fairy Graham. So, and I want to state something for the record. I don't wish death or ill will on anybody, even my enemies, even people that I have political disagreements with, or political rivals, or people that I have distaste and disdain for, and to the point of almost hate. I try not to hate, but I do not pray for or wish death on anyone, even those that the world would be a better place without them. So I'm not one of those that celebrate when there's hardship or death or violence inflicted. So as much as I despised Lindsey Graham and I exposed Lindsey Graham, and I'm glad that he's no longer around, but I didn't wish for his death. And I don't wish for any pain and suffering from any family members that, or people that cared for him or respected him or liked him or voted for him. Wow, this was a shocker. And like I said, I did a little bit of reading and research into this health condition. And if in fact he had that, you could go pretty quickly. And so you can read up on that as well. So we may get into that a little further, but I just felt like, this is late Sunday night, Monday morning, right around the, which is within a 1 day time frame of this all happening. And I just wanted to record some of my thoughts and some of my observations and my assessment of what's occurring here. But Trump claiming he's a great American patriot, a true American patriot, is completely farcical, nonsensical, and quite frankly, asinine. This guy was a bloodthirsty thug. Now, not thug in the sense that he could fight. I doubt he could. Now, he was in the Air Force Reserves, but I don't think he ever served a day, sort of like George Bush Jr., George W. Bush. But yeah, I want to do a little background on Lindsey Graham, because those that are trying to rewrite history in terms of Lindsey Graham, this guy is a snake. He was a snake in the grass. He was a cutthroat. He was someone that it could turn on you on a dime. And his loyalty was always transactional, and it was always political. And the transactional nature with Trump, he realized, hey, Trump's in power, and I want to, rather than work against him, I'm going to work with him and for him. And they forged this very strange, weird, the Trump likes that word, I say it jokingly, weird relationship. Now, Lindsey Graham not only attacked Trump during the primaries and right around the time that he became the nominee, but he also attacked Trump during the J6 rioting that occurred. And then he changed his mind on that too. So Lindsey Graham was totally transactional, whatever was politically expedient. He was a sellout and a suck up, and he always went where the power was. And remember, he was closely allied with John McCain in their war machine and in their political actions. So, hey, if you like John McCain as a politician, then you like Lindsey Graham. And then Lindsey Graham, remember, and John McCain was like his best friend. And, the harsh attacks and assaults on John McCain's character from Trump. And then Lindsey Graham becomes Trump's very best friend. And then he, like Mark Levin, pushed Trump into a lot of these being more bellicose and belligerent as it relates to taking a harsher approach to threats of war and war itself. So we'll get more into Lindsey Graham. I'm not mourning his death, but I also didn't wish for his death. And so Fairy Graham, see you later. Bye-bye. You won't be missed by me. More to come. Truth Matters. Tom Donahue. Right back. Tom Donahue for best-selling Eden Pure Thunderstorm 2 air purifier uses proven oxy technology that quickly destroys viruses, odors, mold, and so much more with thousands of 5-star reviews. It really does work. And I can tell you, I've used it for 8+ years. every day. Any smell will vanish after just a few seconds, with the thunderstorm being on. Odors from litter boxes, trash cans, cigarette smoke, mildew, and much more are no match for the thunderstorm 2. The powerful thunderstorm sends out O3 molecules which seek out and destroy odors. These molecules even go behind and under furniture. Nothing can hide from the thunderstorm. Best of all, no filters ever, saving lots of money. Start enjoying your clean home again. You can save $50 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 2 if you click on my link at my website. Add another unit and you'll get an additional $20 off. Each additional thunderstorm you add to your cart while shopping, you'll get that additional $20 off. That's $70 for every additional one you place your order for. You must click on my link at my website to get these savings. Reiterate some of the major points. The Thunderstorm 2 proven oxy technology destroys viruses, odors, mold, mildew, cleans the air of allergy-causing particles so you can breathe easier again, freshens the scent of your home. It gets rid of any odor, whether it's litter boxes, trash cans, cigarette smoke, cooking smells, and I cook with garlic, and it works. So never breathe dirty air again in your home. No filters to buy, takes up virtually no space. It plugs directly into the wall. Very quiet, nearly silent. Great for use even in your bedrooms. It's compact even for travel. If you're staying in a hotel and you know how musty and mildewy those hotel rooms can be, Tom Donahue, Eden Pure, and you go to TomDonahueReports.com. TomDonahueReports.com. It'll take you to the Eden Pure Thunderstorm 2. All the information's there. As soon as you start clicking through the shopping cart, you'll get those discounts because you're clicking on my link. Absolutely 100% endorse this and have used it for more than 8 years. These units at the regular price is quite a deal. But then you get $50 off by simply clicking on the banner, and each additional unit, you can take another $20 off per unit. So that brings the price to $59. I don't know how they do it. It's an incredible product already. Tremendous pricing. Take advantage of this by clicking on the banner, TomDonahueReports.com, Eden Pure. It's a must-have. I use it every day and completely 100% endorse it. Conspiracy Radio, the new streaming station offering shows only from this unique, compelling genre. They don't want you to know, but we do. Conspiracy Radio, formerly Patriot Radio Classics, is now streaming 24/7 with the greatest conspiracy radio programs from past and present. Political to the paranormal cover-ups, conspiracies exposed. From legendary past hosts to groundbreaking present-day popular shows. Listen 24/7 online at conspiracyradio.net or download the apps at TalkStreamLive.com. Visit conspiracyradio.net. That's conspiracyradio.net. Conspiracy Radio. Follow the evidence. Question everything. Welcome back, Tom Donahue, Truth Matters. And getting to the matter of the truth, Lindsey Graham has died, seemingly somewhat suspicious circumstances. However, the medical examiner seems to have indicated a medical condition, rare though, and we'll have to see where that goes. I don't really have enough information, nor do I care about his circumstances as it relates to his departure. Now, would it be interesting if Putin or any other political factions undermined or poisoned or sabotaged him in this way? So yes, I'd like to know, but do I really care to know all that much? No, not really. Now, I called him Fairy Graham, and that was as related to his Disney World adventure by himself recently with his pink fairy bubble wand. He had no friends or family there with him. He's just strolling with his bubble wand, pink, and looking like a fairy. And I guess I will still refer to him as Fairy Graham. But what I have to tell you now, which everyone has been somewhat suspicious and have surmised for many years, is that Lindsey Graham was gay or homosexual. And he's never been able to quell those rumors and those allegations. But now that he's passed on, there are people coming forward. And one in particular is a trans influencer and author that alleges that Lindsey Graham hired her, meaning him, before the transition occurred for sex work. Jesse James Rose alleged with hand-raising emoji that Graham paid a Twinkie pre-transition college student a fat stack of cash for a meetup. So this story did appear before, but now it's the story and the allegations have reemerged. Remember, Lindsey Graham has always voted against any policies, whether it relates to the military or other rights relating to trans, relating to gays, relating to homosexuals, and the LGBTQ plus and also bans on gender affirming care for minors. The bitter irony of this record is that Graham spent much of his political career denying rumors and speculations about his own sexual orientation, a task that became more difficult in the social media age. Now, this man who was in the beginnings of transition at the time details an alleged experience of being paid by Graham for sex work prior to her gender transition, or his transition, however you want to look at that. While she attended college, ended up inadvertently being the way many found out about politicians passing. The author attended New York University, holds a degree in music and theater and child and adolescent mental health studies. Oh boy, according to her bio. So this Twinkie at the time, pre-transition man wanting to be a woman, said a fat stack of cash to do unspeakable things to him in a hotel room while he wore red lingerie. The sorry I keep crying during sex author wrote, and here's a quotation, it says, "It's a canon trans event to have far-right freaks bankrolling you and then turning around and voting against you." So I'm looking at the social media posts over this weekend regarding this, and at the bottom says, "Eulogy for a horny hypocrite." He or she said, "At the time, I had no idea who he was, and I only figured it out because another group of twinks leaked Lady G to the media. Some queers," and this is their word, "tried to grandstand critique this, saying we shouldn't out people." And then it says, "I believe bigots with power deserve no peace or privacy, especially when they hold public office. I'm glad they did it. Icons forever." Lindsey Graham consistently denied being gay until the end of his life. Comedian Chelsea Handler made insinuations about his sexuality online in 2018. The senator responded to the allegation saying, "To the extent that it matters, I'm not gay." In 2020, a porn performer, Sean Harding, posted online implying that an unnamed Republican senator who had hired multiple gay sex workers, including him. People connected the story to Graham based on the nickname Lady G, a code name sex workers in D.C. allegedly used to refer to the South Carolina legislator. The nickname followed Graham what would turn out to be his final years of his life. As recently as 2025, right-wing influencer and Trump ally Laura Loomer said Graham was gay while testifying under oath for a deposition. Several of President Trump's staff have told me in confidence that Lindsey Graham is gay. Loomer said that during the deposition, which she later defended online, saying that she did not want to perjure herself. Despite these rumors, Graham maintained anti-gay, LGBTQ plus policy stances for the entirety of his political career. Additionally, he also aided in the creation of the passage of a bill and a set of laws passed under Trump administration that attacked online sex work under the guise of fighting trafficking while allegedly making industry more dangerous for sex workers. Graham also sponsored the Earn It Act in 2020, which further targeted online sex work. Many commenters on social media thanked Rose for her vulnerability in calling out the perceived political hypocrisy of opposing gay and trans rights and sex worker rights while allegedly leading a secret double life. So there we go. These allegations are very specific, very strong, and many in both Democrat and Republican circles felt this was an open secret to some extent. And you can see that some of Trump's allies believe this to be the case. And I don't like to talk this way, but he stereotypically looked and sounded gay. I mean, you can't get around that. And furthermore, if you take the gay equation out of it, the insinuations, the allegations, he's just downright creepy. And then him being around the children at Disney World by himself with a pink princess bubble wand. Wow. I mean, 2 + 2, I think still equals 4. Unmarried, never married, no visible girlfriends. Now, there have been rumors swirling about a app called Grindr that seems to identify Mike Johnson. But again, I don't know if the speaker falls into that category or not. I don't have enough information. But these are accusations, allegations, insinuations that are out there. And especially in liberal and progressive podcasts and shows, they talk about this as fact. Well, I don't know enough. And it's really, if you're not hurting anybody else, I really don't want to get into all those things, but hypocrisy really does bother me. And I'm going to get into, in the next segment, a little bit more hypocrisy from Alex Jones. Every time I give him a compliment, every time I say, well, he's becoming more accurate, he's more reliable source, and then he just mucks it up. And I will get to that. We're going to take a quick break. Tom Donahue, Truth Matters. We'll be right back.
For nearly 250 years, Americans have enjoyed a level of civility and prosperity. Wicked globalist operatives threaten it all. And the chaos around us is the result of an underlying spiritual war. See through the deception and discover the root of the world's conflicts. A startling new book from the host of the Truth Seekers radio show, Soulless Society. Available on Amazon in softcover, Kindle ebook, and Audible. Visit www.soullesssocietybook.com.
You're listening to Truth Matters and Tom Donahue Reports, where the truth really does matter, shedding light and insight on the prevailing controversies, cover-ups, and conspiracies, always from an America First, patriotic, independent, conservative perspective. And be sure to listen each week at the same time. Also find out more about our show at TomDonahueReports.com, also available for podcast listen and download on all major podcast platforms. That's Tom Donahue Reports. .com. Welcome back, Tom Donahue, Truth Matters, and let's get right to it. Alex Jones claimed on July the 13th, 2026, again, because I've heard him say this before, that he was offered by Roger Ailes and Fox News a broadcast contract in the range of $50 million. That is a bold and blatant lie. I know people in the industry. I know writers in the industry. I know people that worked for and around Alex Jones. And this is just a fabrication. This is a hallucination. This is an insane thing to state. And he said that, well, Rush Limbaugh was having heart trouble and they were offering him to be the backup role. Hannity was the backup role, you stooge. Hannity was always the backup plan. And then they brought Beck in, and the Beck clown and crybaby and goofball. Remember, they put him on Fox because he wasn't as outrageous as Alex Jones, but he was quirky. And then as he got a little bit more off the grid with some of his shows, which I actually appreciated, but still goofy, with the goggles and, all the alleged health problems, and really kind of ridiculous, but I've covered that way back in the day. So they removed Glenn Beck, and they removed many sexual assault and abusers from their airwaves. But Roger Ailes, as you know, he was fired and he passed on, and he had all kinds of sexual abuse and sexual allegations lodged against him. And there's been stories and movies and books written about all that, the whole Fox Follies situation. But Premier Radio Networks, Clear Channel, iHeart, all one and the same, they just rename, rebrand, would have never, under any circumstances, offered Alex Jones a contract. Matter of fact, there was never been an iHeart station that has carried Alex Jones, to my knowledge. And we know Salem would have not touched him. Now, Salem does offer distribution services, which I've used, and John B. Wells and others, and you're independent. So that could have been a possibility. But to be syndicated, under contract, working for one of these big media conglomerates, that makes no sense. Because if he wanted to claim his independence, he wouldn't have even had any kind of discussions with them. And with all the things he was saying, there's no way they could have him on because he'd be opposing them. Now, I've worked for networks, but they weren't in that big league. They were pretty good and strong, and myself, Chuck Harder, and the biggest networks were not going to touch me because I exposed the media conglomerates. I opposed and exposed them. And so if Jones truly is doing this, which seemingly he does at times, then there's no way that they would reach out to him. It's not like he's like a brilliant broadcaster. He's become pretty good at his shtick and what he does, but he's not big league in terms of the voice, in terms of the talent, the delivery. When you're unhinged and when you can just rant and rave. Now, Dennis Miller could rant and rave, but it was funny, and he was very good, and he was very sharp, and his show was pretty decent. Gene Burns, and there's Michael Savage, and there's many hosts that have come down the pike that when you heard them and you listened to them, you just knew that they were just a premier, top shelf, top tier talent. Alex Jones does not sound like that. He's good for his genre. Now, he is an opportunist. Now, when you're an opportunist, you would leap at those offers if in fact they actually occurred. And again, there is no evidence. I've researched this. I've looked into this. I'm not jealous of anyone. I really don't care how much money someone makes, because that's not what I was striving for. I was always striving for just having a voice, telling it like I know it and how I feel and how I see it, and let the chips fall where they may. But as you can tell, Alex Jones was ingratiating himself and getting very close to Trump and the Trump administration. I would have never, under any circumstances, done that because I was always suspicious of Trump. I appreciated in the first term the agenda for the most part, but I never appreciated him, the person. Or the personality. I never liked him. I never respected him as a person. But I figured, okay, if he's jumping onto our program, our agenda, our movement, and if he can push it forward, well, then I'll support that. Just like with Tucker Carlson, complete opportunist. Does he say some things that are good and that does he expose some things? But then all of a sudden you get the disinformation, whether it's knowingly, whether it's by design, I don't know. But when you say that Graham Plattner was pushed out of the race because he was questioning certain things, no, the Nazi tattoo, the sexual abuse and alleged rapes was just a bridge too far. So you had Trump some questioning the women in terms of their veracity and credibility. Tucker, the same. Just like Candace Owens, I don't trust her completely. She's doing some incredible work. But when she went to the defense of Harvey Weinstein and Michael Jackson, that there's no question in my mind, from everything I've read and everything that I've seen, that these two were sexual predators, one for children, the other for young women. And so you have to bear in mind that you cannot trust anyone 100%. And that includes me. I could be, I'm fallible. I could say something. It could be my opinion. It could be my, the way I process things or the way, I discern and then distribute. But I try to the best of my ability to be as rational and factual in what I share with you. But some of these other people, it's about viral clips. It's about going against the tide and it's about, creating something greater than the day before. And so you have to be mindful of that and not just buy in and say, I'm all in. Don't be all in with any person, any party, any program, and always question everything. And you be the discerner and the decider. And then you come to your own conclusions, but be loyal to the facts, be loyal to the Creator God, be loyal what's moral and just, and you'll be okay. So let's take a time out. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with more. Tom Donahue, Truth Matters. It really does. Motivates me each and every day. Right back. Tom Donahue for best-selling Eden Pure Thunderstorm 2 air purifier uses proven oxy technology that quickly destroys viruses, odors, mold, and so much more with thousands of 5-star reviews. It really does work. And I can tell you, I've used it for 8+ years. Every day. Any smell will vanish after just a few seconds with the thunderstorm being on. Odors from litter boxes, trash cans, cigarette smoke, mildew, and much more are no match for the Thunderstorm 2. The powerful thunderstorm sends out O3 molecules which seek out and destroy odors. These molecules even go behind and under furniture. Nothing can hide from the thunderstorm. Best of all, no filters ever, saving lots of money. Start enjoying your clean home again. You can save $50 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 2 if you click on my link at my website. Add another unit and you'll get an additional $20 off. Each additional thunderstorm you add to your cart while shopping, you'll get that additional $20 off. That's $70 for every additional one you place your order for. You must click on my link at my website to get these savings. Reiterate some of the major points. The Thunderstorm 2 proven oxy technology destroys viruses, odors, mold, mildew, cleans the air of allergy-causing particles so you can breathe easier again, freshens the scent of your home. It gets rid of any odor, whether it's litter boxes, trash cans, cigarette smoke, cooking smells, and I cook with garlic, and it works. So never breathe dirty air again in your home. No filters to buy, takes up virtually no space. It plugs directly into the wall. Very quiet, nearly silent. Great for use even in your bedrooms. It's compact even for travel. If you're staying in a hotel and you know how musty and mildewy those hotel rooms can be, Tom Donahue, Eden Pure, and you go to TomDonahueReports.com, TomDonahueReports.com. It'll take you to the Eden Pure Thunderstorm 2. All the information's there. As soon as you start clicking through the shopping cart, you'll get those discounts because you're clicking on my link. Absolutely 100% endorse this, and I've used it for more than 8 years. these units at the regular price is quite a deal. But then you get $50 off by simply clicking on the banner, and each additional unit, you can take another $20 off per unit. So that brings the price to $59. I don't know how they do it. It's an incredible product already. Tremendous pricing. Take advantage of this by clicking on the banner, TomDonahue.reports.com, Eden Pure. It's a must-have. I use it every day and completely 100% endorse it. We are back. Tom Donahue, Truth Matters. And I want to continue a little further with Alex Jones before I pivot in this final stretch. Jones stated today, July the 16th, 2026, that, and he said this before, that Trump really is not incriminated in the Epstein files. Excuse me, he's the million-mentioned man. If you have followed any of the files, there are explicit and explosive details of accusations about Trump in conjunction with Epstein and on his own. And there are many, many beauty pageant contestants that have also come forward that were teenagers in what Trump said and did. So being an apologist and a shield for Trump because you had access, to me, is unconscionable. And just to say, oh, well, Trump was trying to protect his friends, I went way beyond that. And yes, at least you do admit there's an accessory after the fact to these crimes if he was being a pedophile protector of his friends in those inner social circles. But this is much deeper and much more obscene and profane, Trump's involvement. And you just don't pal around with someone for more than a decade and be his best friend and be in and out of those mansions. And remember, the flight log says he went to Epstein Island 7 or 8 times. To me, that was less important because he was in those mansions on a regular, frequent, almost daily basis and on the phone with him almost all the time. And there are many, many witnesses that have corroborated the fact that they were extremely close, almost joined at the hip. So I will not sell my soul for access. And maybe you were impressed that Trump called you multiple times, so you say. The only way I would take his call would be if I were able to interview him, and I mean confrontationally, but fairly, in a very firm and stern approach to these details. But when I heard that, then also, I like the Trump sons. Oh, really? You like the trophy hunters that kill innocent, nearly extinct animals, and they do it for fun. And you like the fact that Don Jr. has the morality of his father as it relates to fidelity in relationships, but more specifically, his new wife, the social media influencer, that even the dad doesn't like. But it's now come to light that Don Jr.'s, at that time, girlfriend, fiance, very quickly wife, her father was the personal banker for Epstein. Yeah. So the Epstein-Trump class is so intertwined and interwoven into this pedo class that we really need to dive and delve deeper into these associations. And I did bring up all the information relating to Ivanka and Jared Kushner and Nathan Rothschild and Albania and those luxury developments, which is pretty astonishing. And I will continue reporting on that because it's very important, because I think, and again, this is speculation, and I always tell you to challenge everything that you hear and see, and you need to process those things, and you need to have the art of discernment, and I'm talking about spiritual discernment, prayer, and being guided in that regard, and having guideposts that you count on, like the Constitution, the Bible, spiritual wisdom that you acquire through prayer and through meditation. But when I mention how much was involved in this development and these special arrangements through Rothschild and the corrupt Albanian government, so it seems, that I underestimated the complete development. And I'm going to share just a few of those facts with you. But those that want to lavish praise on Trump's family, I mean, we're talking about crypto klepto activity. We're talking about stock market insider trading. We're talking about dealings with foreign governments that absolutely appear on the surface to be bribery and just financial chicanery. So Ivanka and Jared backing the multi-billion-dollar luxury resort development of Sazan Island off the coast of Albania and have been given special permits and privileges from the Albanian government through Rothschild. And this private equity group and fund is Affinity Partners. So we're looking at actually two projects. I talked about the one that was for the luxury eco resort, and that was for $1.4 billion. But the Narta Lagoon is a much larger project that I failed to mention, and that is in the range of $3.3 billion. So the total that they're estimating with these two projects and beyond is in that $5 to $6 billion range, which is just extraordinary. And so much of it is coming from the Arab states, more specifically Saudi Arabia. So you've got this fund that they say is holding more than $6 billion. That's being at least publicly accounted for. But this project that they're going to infuse this money, besides the fund that they manage, this investment fund through Affinity, and they say Kushner's net personal worth is well over $1 billion now. I mean, he had virtually nothing during the Trump first administration. And now he's worth over $1 billion that we know of. So this project is another act of cronyism and corruption at the highest scale, and the Trump family again is involved. We have exposed the New World Order, the hidden hand, the secrecy of the cabal that runs the world, and the Rothschilds are at the top. And so now we know factually with concrete evidence that the Trump family works with the Rothschilds. So they work with the Epsteins, the Rothschilds, the state of Israel. There's not a dictator or a tyrant that Trump doesn't like and work with and praises and models after. So there's so much more I want to get to, and I will in future shows. But there's such a corrupt, conspiratorial network. The only thing I'll give Trump credit for is its naked corruption. He's just doing it in the wide open, just figuring, hey, I don't have that much time left on this earth, in all likelihood. I'm just going to go for the gusto. I'm going to, I'm on my revenge tour. You took from me and I'm taking from you. And he's just going for everything he can get his pudgy fingers on. And he's got a stranglehold on the United States of America. And now globally, he's working with the dictators, the tyrants, the gangsters and banksters. And that's just the way I see it. I give you the unvarnished truth to the best of my ability, but you be the discerner and the decider. And we'll just keep going forward with this approach. Well, JD Vance, another subject and another controversy, in my view, where Alex Jones is jumping on the JD Vance train prematurely, way too early, and erroneously, seemingly backing JD Vance for president in 2028. Now, has he said and done a few things that even I like? Yes. But I do know that he's a tech bro. He's a creation of the tech titans, that he is a political chameleon, a political hypocrite, a flip-flopper, and an opportunist. And you say, well, how so? Well, just go back to 2014, 15, 16, And as far as I can see, even up to, I think, 2018, the very harsh and insane criticism of Trump. I remember he was a darling of Oprah, and he was always on the left-leaning news networks criticizing Trump. And then he had this so-called political conversion, which I don't buy. And the artist formerly known as the Hillbilly, who became the Ivy Leaguer, that became from a moderate Republican to a MAGA Republican. Don Jr. and Tucker Carlson pushed him onto, and Charlie Kirk pushed him onto Trump. Trump was going to pick Burnham, the very boring governor that, is a reasonable conservative. But that wasn't jazzy enough for Don Jr. and Tucker. And for whatever reasons, they befriended JD Vance. And remember, it was the tech titans, Peter Thiel, that pumped in all the money for him to become senator. So he wasn't in government very long before being snatched for the VP role. So plucking him and placing him in this power position. And so he is a conspiracy theorist to some extent. He has questioned to some degree if, in fact, the Charlie Kirk shooter operated alone. And when you're being attacked by Ben Shapiro for your close ties to Tucker Carlson, and for JD Vance accusing Israel of a secret plot against him and drops Mossad Epstein bombshell in explosive Rogan interview, JD Vance admits to Rogan the Trump administration is guilty of mishandling the Epstein files and may even be a broader conspiracy and blackmail relating to Israel. JD Vance says, go to hell to Israeli influencing campaign trying to tie him to Tucker and other things. Beyond all that, JD Vance, in his book tour and media appearances, says that he's an admirer of Richard Nixon, which I scold JD Vance on Nixon beyond Watergate and why Nixon was the ultimate insider before they turned on him. So, Alex, again, you are wrong to be backing JD Vance at this juncture. I will tell you emphatically, even though there are certain things he has said and done that I like, but I will never, ever vote for him, support him entirely, case closed, punctuation mark, period. But again, there are too many people that look for political saviors or go for the lesser of evils or want to ingratiate themselves. And nah, that's not me. So on that note, we will close it out for this week's edition. Truth Matters, Tom Donahue. Have a great week.